Welcome back to Break of Throw. I'm here with primetime Matthew Edgar, darts coach, darts pundit, darts social media star, darts player. Matt, we're going to actually analyse your throw in the first part of this episode. Do you often analyse your own throw?
No, not really. I mean, you tend to find that when you're looking at a throw, you need to see it in real time. And if you're watching videos and trying to make any alterations, you're doing it on recalled information. And you can't confirm things, you can't see if things have changed. So I don't think anyone should ever look at analysing their own throw. I think when you're filming things, it's just a recipe for disaster because you can't see it. You can't see it unfold. So absolutely not. It's something I don't tend to look at. So this can be quite interesting.
Well, we apologise because we are going to take a look first at your stance, Matt. Talk to me a little bit about it because it seems you're standing ever so slightly off centre, but your right arm looks to me to be directly down the centre of the hockey.
Yeah, straight down the line. The alignment's good in regards to the position here, the sort of the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist, all literally coming straight down that line. So all I've got to do is just bring it all forward in a nice forward action, let the wrist come over the top of the action there. It's pretty much all just in the arm. So nice, solid stance there, completely eliminating the body.
Is there much of a lean there for you?
There's a tiny bit of a lean, but the good thing is there's no break of the line of balance. So it's all in a good, perfect line. A lean is okay, just as long as there's no break traditionally around the hip.
Was this a stance what has changed over the years?
Honestly, I don't know. I remember when I first watched myself play on TV in 2013. It was the UK Open. I played Colin Osborne. And I watched, I thought, that's not me. I don't throw like that. And I think that's when I realised, well, I never really want to see my own throw back. So I tend to avoid watching it. So people may say it's evolved and changed. Throws tend to evolve and change. They certainly get a little bit stronger over time as well. But I can't honestly say if it has too much. To be honest, no.
When you go up to the hockey, does anything help with the alignment or is it kind of just off feel and repetition?
I'm completely feel. Everything I do is on feel. So you get some players that sight a dart. That's going out of the world now. There's a lot less people that sight. There's a lot more that do it on feel, on rhythm, on repetition. And I'm certainly one of those. I used to try and aim and sight a dart, but I found that when I started going into the professional ranks, I'd completely lost that, and I just started to play on fluency and feel.
Well, let's take a look at the Matthew Edgar throw from a side-on position and get your thoughts, Matt. As we can see here, Matt, this is your throw from a side-on position. Talk to me a little bit about it, because we can see from this still here, you bring it out before you bring it back. You get quite close to your face. What stands out for you here, analysing your own throw?
So when we talk about aiming a second ago, that's what that is. That little movement of the arm forward, that's essentially the aim. Yes, I'm not looking down the barrel or I'm looking down the flight, but what that is for my visuals, for my peripherals, for everything, so I know that that dart's where it needs to be. And that's through years and years of repetition. So I don't need to sort of essentially aim like a gun where you're aiming through a sight or through a point. So that's the first part. Yes, there's quite a nice deep draw back there. Elbow position, very, very good. Now, there's plenty of YouTube videos out there that may suggest it's a little low, but if I start going any higher than that, I'm going to start really engaging that shoulder, and then I'm going to have to engage the wrist in order to sort of compensate for that. As I say, it's really interesting to see because I've never broke it down like this before, so I'm actually quite happy with that. It looks quite nice.
Interestingly, as you can see as you lift it up here, it feels like your dart is almost, the point's almost at the floor when you're holding it out here. Again, is that just something what's come off feel, or is that constructed a little bit?
That's purely just on feel. It's probably even my wrist over time because I've struggled with wrist injury that I've sort of took the wrist out the throw for a period of time. Certainly the videos we're watching here. I reckon if I throw now, it'd be different because I've got to the point now where I'm able to start moving and flexing the wrist a little bit. So my throw's changing and evolving once again. But I think that's probably purely just a comfort factor in regards to the wrist and keeping that out the throw. As we draw the dart back, the dart in the hand is sat in a nice position. It's sort of ready to go on the arc. All I've got to do is send and propel.
Did you find it difficult to adapt your throw to injury?
Yeah, because I had to take the wrist out the throw. So I ended up throwing more with the arm because the wrist became quite static, which was then arm and fingers, which meant you're then flicking a bit more. So it's harder to find consistency.
When you were coming back to it, was it a case of bringing it in slowly, or was it one day you thought, okay, it's time to go back to what you kind of knew?
No, it was a big break. A big rest period, so I had to take a long period of time not playing, and I was trying to play because I wanted to get to Lakeside and do those sort of little tick boxes that I hadn't yet done, and I had an opportunity to go do it. But it was one of those things where I was playing when I shouldn't have been. And the time off, having that rest, I think it's worked quite well, so I can start to rebuild the throw. And it takes a lot of time to sort of be able to put that wrist back in.
Well, let's take a little look at the Matthew Edgar throw in full here as you pile in the maximum. What stands out for you here, Matt?
This is definitely during that period of time where you can really see you see how stiff the wrist is here. I'm not willing to sort of flick in again. I mean, great celebration, probably the best 180 celebration in the game, I'd say. But you can see the stiffness in the wrist. That's the thing that really stands out for me here. And you can see there how the arm sort of hooking across in order to get that out. That is changing. If you were to see me now, I think the throw would be very, very different.
Let's talk a little bit about the setup. Where exactly do you grip the dart?
So I grip just at the back of the balance point. So the balance point of the dart is where literally you can balance the dart within the finger, and it's going to stay stable. I'm just behind. That gives me that lovely arc. I mean, the interesting thing here is I'm actually playing with a standard flight, which meant the grip of which I'll use here is actually deeper on the barrel, closer to the stem. To get the same arc with different equipment, I have to throw and hold the dart differently. And this is probably the top tip for people. If you're going to change the back of the flight or you're going to change the dart, you cannot replicate the same grip.
How's your dart been designed to help you and your grip?
It's purely the back of the dart that works for me, because I actually like that being quite smooth. That's a trigger point for me. And then I have my middle finger sat closer to the front towards the point of the dart. So that needs to be a bit grippier, because that's a balance and supporting factor. So we need a little bit more grip at the front, little less at the back. This is perfect for how my hand sits.
Well, finally, we're going to take a look at when you reeled in the little fish on a finals night. And as you said, celebrations is something in the Matthew Edgar game. And it looks like you're giving a little bit to the crowd there, Matt.
It was a lovely shot, wasn't it? Colin Osborne thought he was going to go win the game. He ironically did. Missed 3 match darts at that semi-final. That haunted me, that really did hurt. But yeah, it was a lovely finish. And do you know what? At the time, and I think every time I played here at the Super Series, I don't really think I've ever been coming here where I thought, I'm actually going to go win this, because I've been filling in spots when they needed players. I've not come because I've come off my own back where I've gone, I want to play the Super Series because I think I can do it. And I think that's probably where it's going to be different the next time that I actually play the Super Series. So any moment like that I had at that period of time was magical for me.
Obviously, the character and charisma is part of the Matthew Edgar game, and I assume you're going to say that comes from WWE?
Absolutely, love the wrestling. I just like, I enjoy this game. I love darts, and it's one of those things that I don't come on this stage or any stage and ever feel like it's not a privilege, and I just want to enjoy every single moment I get, however that is. So I just don't hold anything back. I just get up there, enjoy it. Who knows when the last time you're going to walk off the stage is? You don't realise when that is. You come off the stage and it's like, well, is that the last time I get to play? You don't come off like that. You go, right, next year I'm going to go back and do this, or next time I'm going to do that. And I'm very well aware of every time I come off that might be the last time. So yeah, I just enjoy every moment.
Well, there you go. Next time Matthew Edgar is on the Super Series stage, maybe you'll notice something a little bit different about his throw. After the break, we're going to take a look at Glen Durrant. Welcome back to Break of Throw. I'm here with Matthew Edgar. We've just taken a little bit of a look at Matthew Edgar's throw, and we're going to move on to your good friend, Glen Durrant. Initial thoughts with Glen and his throws?
It's changed a lot, hasn't it, over the years? I mean, Glen puts it down to dartitis. Dartitis isn't always manifested in sticking and holding at the back of the throw. For Glen, it sort of removed the back end of the throw. The movement in the arm completely stopped. And you can get what I like to call a movement displacement at times, where the brain thinks your arm's doing something, or the brain thinks you're doing something because it sees something, but it's actually confusing it for something else. A great example is if you hold your hand up as if you're going to throw a dart, but you lower your elbow, it actually moves the hand closer to the face. So you think you've drawn back, but actually what you've done is you've gone lower. And I think this is what sort of crept into Glen's game over time, just those sort of little displacements.
And that's exactly why I said throws, because like you said, Glen's kind of looked at his throw, broke it down, come back, realised he didn't like it. He told a great story in one of the other episodes when he played Gerwin Price and he was doing the 1, 2, 3, 4, and he got beat 6-0, and Gerwin said to the end, he was like, that was horrible to play against. And that overthinking is a killer in the game, really, isn't it?
It is. We've got conscious and subconscious thoughts, and essentially your throw needs to be in the subconscious. If you think about, I always, best example, driving your car. You know, everyone drove into work this morning. You checked your mirrors while you was driving in, but how many times? Not got a clue. But you did it subconsciously. Now, if you was to do your driving test, all of a sudden that would become conscious, because you'd be worried that he wants me to check my mirrors a certain amount of time, and he's looking for that. So now I'm going to make that a conscious thing that I'm going to over-exaggerate, which means you're going to get something wrong somewhere else. And ultimately, how many people get minors for not checking the mirrors enough? But you do it all the time. In fact, you probably drove into work, listening to the radio, listening to a podcast, singing along to some Spice Girls or something. And, you know, it doesn't sort of even come into your thoughts about how many times you're changing gears, and that's what darts needs to be. It needs to be in that same sort of mode of driving your car, checking your mirrors, changing gear, but you never think about it. And that's when you play your best darts.
Well, let's take a look at the does stance, because it's something that probably hasn't changed too much over the years. Matt, what stands out to you here? Because it does look dead centre of the hockey.
It is. And you can see that in regards to where Glen's looking with his eyes, where the wrist is and where the dart is. I think the issue for this throw, who's going to look at it from a fine critique sort of point of view, is the body, the stance is just in line as well. Had he moved just slightly over to the left, that would take out, you see the angle of the arm in regards to the wrist to the elbow. Now, because Glen's set to the right, but he's throwing straight down the line, that's just angling. Now, because that's angling, it means he can't just throw out and extend straight down the line, and chances are could engage a little bit of shoulder.
What about the foot up against the hockey there, Matt? It's straight side on. Looks like there's quite a lot of a lean. Could we see some strain there due to this?
It's not so much the front foot, it's the back foot. If you see the side-on angle of the front foot puts him square, but the back foot is more set for a person who stands a little bit more toe forward. Now, the reason for that is because what it does to the hips and the alignment. So, yes, certainly I wouldn't be surprised if Glen gets a little bit of pain on the right knee, certainly going underneath the knee, almost in a C shape. So sort of right-hand side of the knee, down and underneath, and that will just be from that contortion.
Well, let's take a look at the does throw with a little bit of a closer angle. So Matt, as we can see here, it's Glen playing in one of our influencer events. This is probably one of the most recent times Glen has played. So this is probably the most up-to-date version of his throw. As you can see, that kind of iconic does bring the dart back, then brings it forward, and then almost releases right at the end. It's still there. What do you think about this throw in general?
It's unusual. It worked well for him for a good couple of years, but when it started to go wrong, he didn't have the confidence to confirm or to continue with that style and that action. I think that's the issue really here. It's very stabby now, and that's what he'll put down to sort of the dartitis and the breakdown of his throw. There's no sort of drawback in there. Now, if you imagine a slingshot, if I'm sat here, I'll pull it back and I let it go, it's going to fire. The elastic's going to do the job. Now, if I don't pull that back, I've got to generate that somewhere else. So if I'm not going to pull it back, the only place I can generate that is here. I flick. So Glen's throw is exactly that, slingshot mentality. It comes back. He hasn't got anything to ping as such to fire the object, the dart, so he has to push. He has to flick, and that's going to come purely in the arm. And we see him at times, certainly when it was not going well for him, just lunging at the board.
We can see when he kind of sets up as well. It does take a little while to kind of get into that position to almost do this slingshot sort of technique. Dozer was kind of known as someone who's a little bit slower on the hockey. As a player, how do you almost keep interested in your own throw? Because this is something I always thought. If you're a player who's got quite a methodic throw, it's quite slow, it's almost, to quote Dozer, boring. How do you actually keep interested? Because the fast players, I imagine, it's not an issue.
Yeah, that summed Glen's game up perfect, didn't it? Boring, yeah. It was one of those, wasn't he? And he's a tough player to play for that reason, because he is a lot slower, a lot more methodic. And I used to play slow myself, but I think the best thing to say about playing slow is it takes a lot of confidence. Because it's not so much about getting bored with it, it's about the fact that you're building up that anxiety all the time. Certainly when you get into key moments of the game, it will see people at times stop and pause and you think that takes real character to do that, to find that composure. When we look at the likes of Dimitri Vandenberg, who's managed to win major titles playing that way, that takes real character and real composure. And you tend to find a lot of the fast players or players will speed up when they start to feel nervous, because it's just that case of getting on with it. Imagine going up a roller coaster hill. As you're going up that hill, like, ideally, you want to get straight up and over the top and get into the ride and enjoy it. But when you go on those roller coasters that go up a lot slower, it just builds that anxiety and you get more nervous. You start being aware of things. Oh, look how high I am. Oh, look at this. Oh, is this strapped in properly? And you start questioning everything around you. But the ones that just whiz you straight up to the top, you're almost excited. Like, yeah, here we go. And that's the difference between fast and slow.
When you've got a player who's got kind of all these steps in the throw as well, concentration is key, isn't it? Because you don't want to get complacent, especially towards back end of games and stuff like that. If, for example, you start to get behind in the leg and you start not doing what you meant to do, you're never going to give yourself a chance, really, are you?
Well, the danger then is that you start to think of your throw. And you start to go, am I throwing the right way? Am I throwing the same? Am I doing the same things? And then, even though you might still be doing the same things, because you start questioning it, you'll then start looking for changes. And then them changes start eking into your practice. It's not always what happens here, it's the transition of what then goes to there. And then you go, right, well, that's eked into my practice, maybe I'm not doing as well. Oh, maybe I'm using the wrong equipment, let me have a look at that. And you start changing too many things, and you just get lost.
When you're a slow player as well, there's probably always that thought process of, could it be a little bit faster? I think Andy Hamilton's a great example, actually, because if Andy Hamilton is on a big finish and that first dart doesn't go, the next two darts are very quick if his opponent's already there in a double. And sometimes during the treble 20, and I just imagine that when that happens, he probably thinks, why don't I go a little bit faster? But I guess you've got to stay to what you know, don't you?
It's a comfort thing as well. Part of it, like routine. Routine just breeds that comfort factor, just makes you happy with what you're doing. And, Glen talks a lot about processes. He was very methodical in his approach to try and eke out every little bit of talent he had to sort of maximize what he could do. And the process doesn't just start the moment you toe the oche, it's the moment you take your darts out. It's what do you do within that period of time, because you can't control the game from that point. So you need to find ways of controlling yourself.
What about the grip of Glen? Tell me, whereabouts is he holding that dart, Matt?
So Glen's actually got a very centralized balance point. So looking here, we can see that the finger and the thumb that traditionally propel the dart through the air seem to be behind that. Everything else is just purely stability and making it comfortable in the hand.
Would you say when Glen was on here, he said that this is really where you find your power, this is what's throwing the dart? Would you agree with that in basically almost every circumstance?
In majority, yes. So that is what will propel the dart and sort of send it through the air. Now, I would have said in 99% of the cases that's the situation. But I'm seeing more now with people playing more darts, and certainly with the changes I made to my own grip, where I'll now grip with the middle finger and the thumb rather than the index. And a lot of that is to be able to use the wrist in a different way. And I think with people playing more and more darts now, they're looking for ways to become more sustainable within their throws. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot more people do switch to that middle finger, because it does take a lot of strain off the wrist.
Very interesting. When we spoke about you, Matt, we spoke about showmanship. And as we can see here, we've got Glen at the Influencer event, like I mentioned, and he pinned a lovely 1-2-2. He did win a couple of games on that stage. And even though it's a charity competition, when Glen played it competitively, he lost every game. It was nice to see him on that stage enjoying it and getting some wins. He played well in this event, didn't he? He genuinely did.
He did, and he did enjoy it as well, didn't he? He had a great time playing the event. Maybe the last time we get to see him really play on this stage, and if it was, he went out with a bit of a bang, didn't he? He really enjoyed the experience. And do you know what? I think he's probably suited to something like an influencers event in regards to his personality. I think if you had social media the way it is now, 20, 30 years ago, there's no doubt there'd be a Glen Durrant YouTube channel, there'd be a Glen Durrant TikTok channel, it'd be all over that.
What do you break down that does a shuffle?
The best way I can say that is, you know when you go to like a wedding and DJ brings out the mega mix, it gets to about 11 o'clock and your uncle you haven't seen for a few years gets up to do a bit of dancing. That's Glen.
Well, there you go. That's Glen from Matthew Edgar himself. Thank you for watching Break a Throw. Make sure you stay on Pluto TV to catch plenty more episodes.